Okay, priestly order of Melchizedek, part 3. So we talked about how Adam became a priest, and then the laws of the of sacrifice, and I guess you could say sacraments, because it's not just the sacrificial law; it's also the sacraments as far as like bringing like of the ground and the herbs and everything and the fruit and your increase. Because we see that when we got to Cain and Abel, clearly they knew how to offer sacrifices and what was acceptable in order to bring for atonement, because they brought it. All right. So we're going to do priestly order of Melchizedek 3. And before we do that, we're going to pray. Eloi, our Father, our sovereign, thank you for all that you're doing for us. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for who you've been. Help us to hear your word and to put it in our hearts, that we might not sin against you. We ask that you would cleanse us of all unrighteousness, make us whole and refreshed, make us new, change our minds, help us to be able to withstand this great and evil day. We give our hearts to you for examination. Make us whole and right. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, in all I say and do. Help me to live according to your word. Help your people to thrive and to become what we once were. Help us to live in righteousness and truth. Thank you for your glory. Thank you for your son, your word. Help us to do all it is that you have called us to do in all things. By the authority of the Lamb we pray, hallelujah, so it shall be. Okay, we're going to discuss Adam's sovereignty. So we discussed Adam as a ruler and a judge. We've already discussed Adam as a priest, and now we're going to discuss Adam's sovereignty. So Adam's position as a king. And yeah, yeah. I think there was something to say, but whatever. But we'll just keep going. Cabernet 3 concerning the kingdom of Adam. We're going to read this again. And I go up from Adam, and I say, the Most High is king in truth. For him praise is meet. And he appointed under him Adam to be king over all that he had created. And he drove him out of the garden because of his apostasy, and through the sin of the serpent and the plotting of the devil. And at that sorrowful moment, Cain was born. And when Adam saw that his face was ill-tempered or sullen, and his appearance evil, he was sad. And then Abel was born. And when Adam saw that his appearance was good and his face was good-tempered, he said, this is my son, the heir of my kingdom. Adam knew what he had. Now remember, the devil told him he was king over him. But it does not mean you cannot usurp the throne. It doesn't mean that he can rule over you forever. If you walk in righteousness, he won't be able to rule over you. But if you walk in darkness, he will. Because it doesn't say anywhere that Adam's kingship was taken or his authority was taken away. Just his domain, he was cut off from his domain. It doesn't say that he's no longer the king. He was cut off from the domain in the garden, the highest state, but it doesn't mean that he can't rule anywhere. A king that is exiled is still a king. When David was exiled from Israel, he was still the king. He just was no longer operating in his domain until he was restored to his domain. So it's the same thing with Adam. Adam didn't stop being king just because he sinned. He wasn't removed from his position. Saul never stopped being the king when he sinned. Solomon never stopped being the king when he sinned. Ahab never stopped being the king when he sinned. So it doesn't mean because you make a mistake that you lose it all, because the gifts of the Most High are given without repentance. But Adam is just ruling differently, and he's ruling in a different place. He just can't go back to his original estate. Okay, so previously Adam makes a judgment as a king, and he decides who his heir is going to be. And we're going to read Cabernet 4 again concerning envy. And when they had grown up together, Satan had envy of him, and he cast this envy in the heart of Cain, who was envious of Abel. First, because of the words of his father Adam, who said, he who hath a good tempered face shall be the heir of my kingdom. And secondly, because of his sister with the beautiful face, who was born with him, who had been given unto Abel, even as the Most High commanded them to multiply and fill the earth. And now the face of the sister who had been born with Abel resembled that of Cain, and their father had transferred them, the two sisters, with giving them in marriage. And thirdly, because when the two brothers offered up a sacrifice, the Most High accepted the offering of Abel and rejected the offering of Cain. And because of his envy, Cain killed Abel. So here's the thing. Like I said, Adam made a judgment call as the judge of what his authority endowed him with, saying that, okay, well, I can choose which one of my children will take my place in my possession. And he looks at Cain and Abel and he says, between the two, the face of this one, meaning looking at the heart as well, of this one is, it looks like an upright child. So I will let this child rule in my kingdom. And I'm going to actually put the child that looks well favored with this one in order for her to be able to rule with him or to be in his domain. And Cain is upset at that because he's like, one, I don't get the kingdom. Two, I don't get the sister, well, the mate, the bride that I want. And three, they offer sacrifices. So it's about the kingdom. It's about the heritage that he would have had with the sister that was born with him. And then it's also about the priestly rights. They're offering sacrifices like a priest would. He's operating as Melchizedek. He's a king and a priest. Okay? We're going to keep going. We're going to keep talking about this kingdom, okay? And one of the names of Melchizedek is King of Righteousness, okay? So covering the gas 5 concerning the kingdom of Seth. And Adam died, and Seth reigned in righteousness. And Seth died, and Enos reigned. And Enos died, and Canaan reigned. And Canaan died, and Mahalalel reigned. And Mahalalel died, and Jared reigned. And Jared died, and Enoch reigned in righteousness. And he feared the Most High, and the Most High hid him so that he might not see death. And he became a king in his flesh in the land of the living. And we read about the kingship of Enoch. And after Enoch disappeared, Methuselah reigned. And Methuselah died, and Lamech reigned. And Lamech died, and Noah reigned in righteousness. And he pleased the Most High in all his works. This is the passing down of the Melchizedek kingship. Okay? And we're going to keep reading about it. Okay, we're going to revisit this Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Chapter 3, Paragraph 4. Here. So we're going to see what Josie had to say. All right. So it says, for indeed, Seth was born when Adam was 230 years, and who lived 930 years. And Seth begat Enos in his 205th fifth year. And when he had lived 912 years, delivered the government to Canaan, his son, whom he had in his 190th year. And he lived 905 years in Canaan. When he had lived 910 years, had his son Mahalalel, who was born in his 170th year. And Mahalalel, having lived 895 years, died, leaving his son Jared, whom he begat when he was in his 165th year. And he lived 962 years. And then his son Enoch succeeded him, who was born when his father was 162 years old. And now he, when he had lived 365 years, departed and went to Eloi, whence it is that they have not written down his death. Meaning, like, they didn't write down his death because he didn't die. Now Methuselah, son of Enoch, who was born to him when he was 100 in his 165 years old, had Lamech for his son, and when he was 187 years of age, to whom he delivered the government. And when he had retained it 969 years, now Lamech, when he had governed 777 years, appointed Noah his son to be ruler of the people, who was born to Lamech. And when he was 182 years old, he retained the government 950 years. They're passing down this government. They're passing down this kingship. They are kings and priests. All right, I'm going to keep going. First Enoch 65 First Enoch chapter 65 verse 12, Noah's account. And this is Enoch talking to Noah. And he has destined thy name to be among the holy, and will preserve thee amongst those who dwell on earth, and has destined thy righteous seed for both kingship and for great honors. And for thy seed shall proceed a fountain of the righteous, and holy without number forever. Hebrews 5 1 through 11. For every high priest who is from among men is established over the things of Elohim on behalf of men, that they may present the offering and the sacrifices for sin. And he can humble himself and sympathize with the ignorant and the wrong-headed, because he is also clothed with sickness. And therefore he required for the people, as well as for himself, to present an offering for his sins. And no one takes this honor on himself, but he who is called of Elohim, as Aaron was. So also Mashiach, or Messiah, did not exalt himself to become a high priest, but it was he, Master Yah, who said to him, You are my son, this day I have begotten you. And he said this also in another place, You are a priest forever in the likeness of Melchizedek. Likewise, when he was clothed in flesh, he offered fervent prayers and pleading with intense anxious tears to him who was able to revive him from death, and he was heard. And though he was a son, yet from the fear of this suffering he endured and learned obedience. And the result was that he was perfected and became the cause of eternal life to all them who obey him. And he was named of Elohim, the high priest, after the likeness of Melchizedek. Now, concerning this person, Melchizedek, we have much to discuss, but it is difficult to explain it because you are, impeded in your hearing. So here's the thing. The very first part is saying the reason that a priest was required. It says, For every high priest who is from among men, over the things of Elohim, on behalf of men, because his job is to present offerings to appease the Father, offerings and sacrifices, that he can humble himself and sympathize with the people because everybody's in the same boat. The things that we do that we fall short of, which is why Messiah is tempted. He was tempted in all ways that we were tempted, but yet sin not. And he could be the high priest because he knows exactly what it is that we're going through. He knows exactly what it is that we've experienced because he's experienced it. So he can mediate on our behalf to the Father in order to be like, they don't, like they don't know what they're doing, which is why, when he's on the tree, he says, forgive them for they know not what they do. They don't understand. He sees both sides of it. He knows what it's like, what the atrocities mean concerning heaven and how they are judging the situation in that realm. And when the Most High pronounces judgment on a situation, he knows how things work there and how it is viewed. And he knows how things work here and how it is viewed. But he's made in the likeness of Melchizedek, who is a king priest hybrid. He is a king and a priest. And we're going to talk about why that's important in a second. But he's offering sacrifices for himself and for the people. And it says he doesn't take on this honor for himself. He is chosen by the Most High to do this work. Same thing it says for Messiah. It says Messiah was chosen by the Most High for this work. He didn't take that honor on for himself. He didn't choose to be the priest. He was given that as a responsibility to take care of. And then the two scriptures that it's referencing is Psalms 2:7 and Psalms 110:4, where it's talking about this day I've begotten you, as well as the you're forever in the order of Melchizedek. That's for those two. You'll find those two passages. All right, we're going to keep going. Okay, so Hebrews 7, 1 through 6. Now this Melchizedek, so he's talking about this particular one that from that generation, that particular Melchizedek. He said, This Melchizedek was king of Salem, a priest of the Most High Elohim, and he met Abraham when he was returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. And to Abraham set aside 1/10 portion of all that he had with him. And in addition, this same interpreted King of Righteousness. And again, he is called King of Salem, that is, King of Peace, of whom neither his father nor his mother are recorded in the genealogies, nor the origination of his days, nor the closing of his life. But after the likeness of the Son of Elohim, his priesthood remains forever. And consider how great this man was, to whom the patriarch Abraham gave tithes and first fruits. For they are the sons, for they of the sons of Levi, who received the priesthood, had a statute of Torah, that they should take the tithes from the people, and they from their brothers, because they also are of the seed of Abraham. But this man, who is not recorded in their genealogies, took 1/10 from Abraham and blessed him who had received the promise. Now, this king priest, let me say it this way, this priest king approaches Abraham, right? Melchizedek. And we haven't gotten to that part of the story yet, but we will. All right. His name means King of Peace, but he is considered the King of Righteousness. He is the king that administers all of righteousness to the people. He's like, hey, this is the path to righteousness. He's the person that is assigned that role. In that, it says the children of Levi who received the priesthood, what they have is the statute, is they have the Torah. The Torah doesn't exist yet, but there is a law in place, okay? There's always been a law in place. But the Torah is a changed law, it's a different law. But he's taking tithes from his people and from his brothers. He's not taking tithes of the heathen. Melchizedek at this time, the time of Abraham, is over everybody. Every nation that exists under the sons of Noah, Melchizedek is over all of them. He is a king and a priest. He occupies the same office. He is a king and he's a priest. Okay? But then right here, it says, of neither whom his father or his mother are recorded in the genealogies, because he precedes Abraham. He's not in the genealogies that you see of the Levitical priesthood, because he precedes them. And there's no origination of his days, nor the closing of his life. He's not listed there. But after the likeness of the son of Elohim is the priesthood remains forever. And if you read it in the regular Bible, this is the Aramaic, but if you read it in like the King James, it says having neither father nor mother. Where do you see Adam's father and mother listed? But when you look in, I believe it's Luke, when you look in the genealogy of Messiah, it says Adam, son of Eloi, at the end. He is a different type of priest. This Melchizedek isn't Adam, but Adam is the originator of the Melchizedek line. Okay? And we're going to look a little bit more and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Continuing Hebrews chapter 7, verses 7 through 14. And so it is beyond disputation that the lesser is blessed by the greater. And here men who die receive tithes, but there he of whom the scriptures testifies that he lives. And through Abraham, as one may say, even Levi who receives tithes was himself tithed, for he was yet in the loins of his father when he met Melchizedek. And if therefore perfection had been by means of the priesthood of the Levites, in which the Torah was imposed upon the people, why is another priest required who should stand up after the likeness of Melchizedek? For it should have said he will be after the likeness of Aaron. But as there is a change in the priesthood, so also there is a change in the instruction to the Levitical priests. For he of whom these things were spoken was born of another tribe, which no one ever ministered at the altar. For it is manifest that our Master Yeshua, Messiah, arose from Yehuda, Judah, from a tribe which Moses, said nothing concerning a priesthood. So here's right here. At the very top, he says there's no dispute that the lesser is blessed by the greater. The lesser here that he's talking about is Abraham. The greater that he's talking about is the Melchizedek of that time. Melchizedek in general, but the Melchizedek of that time. Okay? He's saying that this king even outranks Abraham. He said, let there be no dispute. Like that's not even a conversation. Melchizedek was greater than Abraham. Then it says, and here men who die receive tithes, talking about they all have a lifespan that is limited. These Melchizedeks of the time, right? They all have a lifespan that's limited. They can't do it forever because death is a thing, right? And they receive tithes. But it says, but there, talking about in righteousness in heaven, he who of the scriptures testifies that he lives. That Melchizedek, talking about Messiah, lives and accepts the offerings of our prayers and supplications, right? And then it says, and through Abraham, one may say even Levi who receives the tithes with himself tithes. The Levites, I believe, weren't tithed. So, but in Abraham, because he's in the loins of Abraham, Levi is being tied to this king that is greater, this king priest that's a greater priest than he is. And then it says, for he was yet in the loins when he met him. And if therefore perfection had been mean by the priesthood of the Levites, when you see perfection in scripture, it doesn't mean what we think of perfection today. We know that the Most High's law is perfect, meaning that it's flawless. But when you see perfection here, it's talking about completion. So if the law were complete, remember Messiah comes on the scene, he said, I'm the end of it. Like I'm completing the law, but it doesn't mean it's done away with. There's a difference. He says, if therefore perfection, if completion had been by means of the priesthood of the Levites, in which the Torah was imposed on the people. So the people had Torah, they had the Levitical priesthood. It says, why is another priest required that should stand up in the likeness of Melchizedek? So you're saying, well, if everything was completed in Levi, in the Levitical priesthood, why do we need another Melchizedek? Why do we need a king priest? And it says, and he said, because it should have said it will be after the likeness of Aaron. So he's talking about the passage in Psalms. I know this is a lot. He's saying the passage of Psalms where he's saying that you're going to rise in the order of Melchizedek. He doesn't say you're going to arise in the sons of Aaron. That's what he says. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that's what he's saying. He's saying you're rising in the order of Melchizedek, this king priest. So Paul's pretty much saying here, well, why didn't David just say that he would arise in the order of Aaron? Because if he arose in the order of Aaron, that would have covered everything. Case closed, we're good. But he's saying that there was a change in the priesthood and also the change in the instruction because the kingship priesthood position splits. And now you have a single king and a single priest. And we'll talk about why that is when we get to it. But those kings and priests, so long story short, real fast, the priesthood of Levi only covers the children of the covenant. He's not a priest to the nations. He's only a priest to the children of the children of Israel. Judah is not a king to the nations. Judah is the king of Israel. Okay? Because the Most High separates them out of everybody else. So they have their own king and their own priest and their own judges. You don't see them judging other nations like the whole world at one time. You don't see them doing that. So Melchizedek, however, is the judge of the heathen and the king of the heathen in one position. And with Messiah, when he comes along, he wraps all of it up under one person himself. All of it gets wrapped up under himself. And I know this is a lot, but as we go through, when we get to the 12 tribes, it'll start to make more sense. But that's why Paul's talking about there was a change in the law. The law originally was the king priest did all of those office, all of the sacraments, all of the things that were required for that office. But when sin came in, the Most High makes adjustments around us. Everything is an adjustment. He makes an adjustment for Adam for sinning. He makes an adjustment for Cain for killing his brother. He makes all of these adjustments around us. It's not the intent. It's a, if you do, then I will. So because of the sin of man, the kingship and the priesthood split. And the priesthood is greater than the kingship. I just want to put that out there. The priesthood is greater than the kingship. They split. And now they have a new law because the king can't do what the priest does. And the priest is not required to do what the king does. So now we have to have a new law that separates the duties of the priest out from the duties of the king. Okay? Which is why at the end of this part, it's talking about Moses said nothing to Judah concerning the priesthood because the original part was supposed to be the king and priest were combined. That's why he's talking about Judah right here because Judah gets the kingship. He doesn't have priest rights. Hebrews 7:15-28. And moreover, this is further manifest from his saying that another priest will stand up after the likeness of Melchizedek, who was not according to the Torah of physical requirements, but according to the power of an indestructible life. For he testifies of him, you are a priest forever after the likeness of Melchizedek. And the change which was made in the future statute was on account of its powerlessness, because there was no usefulness in it. For the instruction of the priest made nothing perfect. But there has come in its place a better hope by which we draw near to Elohim. And he confirmed it to us by an oath. For they became priests without an oath, but this man by an oath. As he said to him by David, Master Yah has sworn and will not lie. You are a priest forever after the likeness of Melchizedek. By all this, is that a superior covenant which Yeshua or Messiah is guaranteed provider. And they as priests were numerous because they were mortal and were not permitted to continue. But this man, because he stands up forever, his priesthood shall not pass away, and he is able to resurrect forever them who come to Elohim by him. For he always lives and sends up prayers for them. For a priest like to him was also suitable for us, one pure without evil and one without stain, one separated from sins and exalted higher than heaven, and who is not required every day, like the Aaronic high priest, to first offer sacrifices for his own sins and then for the people. For this he did once by offering up himself. For Torah appointed flawed men priests, but the word of the oath which is subsequent to Torah appointed the Son who is eternally perfect, which we go back here to Romans 10:4. For Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness. Remember, King of righteousness. The King of Salem is also the King of righteousness. And we talked about all of these different patriarchs reigning in righteousness. He is the end of it to everyone that believeth, right? We just read that here. Now look like back here at the top paragraph. He has the power of the indestructible life. He has no end of days. He is a priest forever because he resurrected to life. And remember, we were talking previously how Eloi is the most high of the living, not the dead. All of these priests died. They can't continue forever. So he gave a new priesthood, or excuse me, he adjusted the priesthood so that it would last forever. It's not like Aaron's priesthood. Aaron's priesthood is a birthright. The Melchizedek priesthood was created by an oath. Remember, he made a covenant with Adam. He said, hey, because you offered your blood here, I'm going to teach you how to do this. And I'm going to make you a priest so that you can go ahead and carry this out as the priest king that you are. But it was done by an oath. He wasn't born into it. They passed it down to whichever son they saw that was righteous. It wasn't like it automatically went to this particular son. Just like the Aaron's priesthood, the Aaron Levitical priesthood, you have to be one of the sons of Aaron. You're born into it. It's not a matter of, okay, you can just pick any Levite or just any of the children of Israel. It had to be a specific line. So they inherited the priesthood. They didn't choose the priesthood, and they didn't have to make an oath for the priesthood. But it says the Torah appointed flawed men as priests, but the word of the oath was subsequent to the Torah. And then it talks about, how we have all these rights and everything because of Messiah, and we draw near to him. Because the change was made because of the powerlessness of it, because it couldn't operate as it was because the same man is not occupying both spaces. Whereas when Messiah comes along, he's occupying both spaces. He is both the king and the priest. All right, let's keep going. Okay, really quick. So we're going to look at this map again, and we're going to look at where Salem is, at least as they say it on this map. And y'all know this is my map, right? So we're going to zoom in this section right here. And as you can see, it says Salem. And then you see right there where I put the box around it, it says Mount or Monte de Adam, Mountain of Adam or Mount of Adam. Okay? All right, we're going to keep going. Okay, so this one has Salem as well, but it's called Ceylon. And it's Charta Cosmographica Conventorum Propria, all that good stuff, right? This map is from 1553. I don't know if I've used this one before, but notice how they took the time to zoom in on where Salem is. And remember how we were talking about where Eden was in relation to other places in the world, but out of all of the places to list on this map, they made sure to highlight that one back in 1553. Just thought it was interesting. And you notice also it's in the territory of Shem. 2nd Enoch 30:12. And I created a saying speech from knowing. I created man from spiritual and from physical nature. From both come his death and life and appearance, image or likeness. He knows speech like some created thing. He is small in greatness and great in smallness. And I placed him on earth like a second angel to be honorable, great, and glorious. And I appointed him as a ruler to rule on the earth and to have my wisdom. And there is none like him in all the earth of all my existing creatures. Now you see right here, it says he created him from spiritual and physical. Remember how we were talking about the fire and the air and the water and the earth, right? And he's like a second angel. He has the components of an angel, but he's something different because it's the spirit inside the body. And we're reading this again for a reason, just as a refresher, and then I'm going to show something to you. Okay, so we're going to look at this passage again. Hebrews 7:3, right? Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Eloi, abideth a priest continually. And remember, we were talking about Messiah and the everlasting priesthood. He has no, it's a eternal thing, not eternal, but an immortal thing. It doesn't end. I guess it would be eternal. Okay, so let's look at this word descent really quickly. It says passing from ancestor to an heir, transmitted by succession or inheritance, as the descent of an estate or a title from the father to the son. But remember, it was the Levitical priesthood is passed by descent. The Melchizedek priesthood was given by an oath. Okay. And then right here, number 7, proceeding from an original, or progenitor. And then 8, birth, extraction, lineage as a noble descent. And then we read this 10,000 times, but right here, 2nd Enoch 30:12, he placed him like a second angel, right, to be honorable, great, and glorious. And we're going to read 1 Corinthians 15:45 through 48. And so it is written, the first Adam was made a living soul, and the last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit, that was not the first which is spiritual, but which is natural, and afterwards which is spiritual, the first man of earth, earthly, the second man is the master Messiah from heaven, or the word of the Most High. As is the earthly, such are they also earthly, and as is heavenly, such are they are also heavenly. And we were talking about the difference between the earthen vessels and the spirits, the earthen vessels with the spirit reigning or residing in them, as well as the spirit itself. And remember, even when we're talking about the conception of Messiah, it's not through normal means. It's not even through the same means that Adam was created. It was just well, actually it is. It's a spirit put inside the earth. Mary is still made of earth. It's a spirit put inside the earth. But it's talking about the differences between the two Adams. And it's the concept of this mortal man taking on the spiritual nature, like we've been saying, just like Messiah said, in the resurrection will be like will be like the angels. So it's the concept still of this mortal man taking on the spiritual nature. So just to wrap things up, we're actually going to read this really quickly. Jasher 3:14 and 15. And it was in the 56th year of the life of Lamech when Adam died. 930 years old was he at his death, and his 2 sons Enoch and Methuselah his son buried him with great pomp, as at the burial of kings, in the cave in which the Most High had told him. And in that place all the sons of men made a great mourning and weeping on account of Adam. It has therefore become a custom amongst the sons of men to this day. They buried him like he was a king, because he was a king.